VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. We are here on the final day of July. Vikings training camp is hot and heavy, a lot of sweet developments, and I have my very good pal here, Sal Spice. How are you?
Hi, I'm so good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Tell me so far, you've been
Thank.
to.
Well, I need to say thank you for having me. Do you know this is my VikesNow debut? VikesNow debut.
It is officially that. What I was going to
I've
ask
been
is,
offended that you haven't asked me. If being honest, I've been very offended. So.
well, we had our unceremonious exodus from the Believe podcast, so it was a natural springboard. I have cross-posted a lot of that to the VikesNow channel, so folks will be
I
familiar with
know.
you among other venues. You went
I
to
know.
camp. You were one of the first early guests. Is that correct? Last week?
Yes, I got invited to Friends and Family Day, which was super nice. So I got to go when really I don't even know how to gauge how many people were there. I mean, maybe like 300 total, maybe
Okay.
two. Was not a lot. God, that's actually probably a stretch because there really was no one in the bleachers. So that was nice, but the downside was a lot of stuff wasn't really set up. So it really wasn't the full like camp experience. It was their like soft opening. But so the booths weren't really open and I don't think Kevin O'Connell cared about friends and family. Maybe he only cared about player friends and family because they did not come on that side of the field where the bleachers are, except the very beginning for warm-ups for maybe like a half an hour. So to be honest, I didn't see anything.
Oh, okay. Well, that put
I
a
was so
damper on.
excited to give like the sneak peek of what's up at training camp, but then I think I told you like I don't think there was anything different.
Yeah, but you have plans to possibly go back Saturday and then to the night practice Monday. Is that accurate?
I'll for sure be at the night practice. I
Okay.
love Vizzy night practice. We've got happy hour 2-for-1 Vizzy, so I wouldn't miss that. But I want to go Saturday. Saturday will be my 10-year anniversary of
Oh, that's
attending my
right.
first training camp in Mankato. When I moved from Richmond, Virginia, the next day I went to training camp for the first time. So it's a really like special day for me, but it's going to be really hot.
Yeah, the day I'm going
And
Monday with my 7-year-old, that's when the heat's supposed to break, and that's just by accident that I scheduled that. All right, let's talk about training camp. So you have plans to go. You saw kind of a nothing burger in terms of action last week, but you've been able to observe from afar, from reporting and whatnot. You can interpret this in any way that you like, run with it in however many angles. What are your general takeaways from Vikings training camp after a pretty rotten July up until the start of training camp?
yeah, you're right. It has been a real downer this last month or so. I think that's probably putting it lightly.
Mm-hmm.
It's really exciting, and I think especially yesterday with how much we got to see of JJ, and I think people got really psyched up about that. And I see a lot of people believing, like, oh wow, maybe this is our year. We found
Mm-hmm.
our guy, and so being able to believe that we found our guy again, whether or not it's true, which we obviously have no way of knowing, but it's just exciting to know that maybe we do have a guy.
And
So it's been great, and I think we're seeing a lot of different. Especially yesterday, we saw so much emphasis on the run game and getting that going. Whereas I think at least I'll speak for myself, but as a Vikings fan that sat through Mike Zimmer for all that time, when Kevin came, it was like I don't want to see any of this. I don't care if they ever run the ball again. Like I don't want to see this, and I was on board with Alexander Madison being RB1, and I was wrong about that.
mm-hmm.
So it is nice to see Aaron Jones and how good he's looking and what they're making work for him and how it seems they're prioritizing that. So there's just so much to be excited about.
There is. I was on a show, Vikes Verified. It's a popular Instagram account last night. And what I told them is based on the way that McCarthy has aced the test so far, like the microphone on the field, the general leadership, he's either going to be finally the guy that we've craved all this time, or he's going to be an excellent imposter because he has done everything right. I swear to God that Christian Ponder wasn't quite like this 13 years ago. Like I remember us getting excited about him in general, but I don't remember every step of the way, at least in the first week and a half of camp, Ponder looking the part. And so McCarthy with the upside, you and I were ready for a new era. Well, you've been ready a lot longer than I have at quarterback, but I got on
Yeah.
board after they lost to the Giants. And so do you hold that like more than just optimistic Vikings fan hope? Like do you really think that McCarthy can be the guy that holds down this job for a decade?
I honestly don't know. And the realistic Vikings fan in me that I believe I'm realistic. I don't believe I'm negative. I think I'm objective. But I would say probably not. I mean, just because of that's how the league works, right? Like these guys that you get to be successful for a decade come around so infrequently. But I want to believe it. And I will say it's the first time in as long as I can remember that I do believe it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, even before Kirk, you knew with Case it wasn't going to be that. You knew with Sam it wasn't going to be that. And I do think it's interesting, though, how we always skip over talking about Teddy when we talk about first round quarterback expectations. So I do want to hear what you think about that. But because, yeah, with Christian, for sure, I thought the same thing. But I think that does take the excitement level to such a greater height because the possibilities are endless now, where before they really were.
Yeah, with I never mentioned Bridgewater in a naughty category because I think he had the oomph and the swagger to be good for the Vikings, but you just never got a verdict. And even when he subsequently bounced around to the Saints and then was it the Broncos, and he was just kind of mid. And I'll always maintain that he could have been a little bit better with the Vikings, but then I ask myself, am I just saying that because I'm a Vikings fan?
Well, I mean, as far as his training camp aura, that swagger, that rookie year, because I don't necessarily remember what it was. In fact, what the vibe was back then. I was there all the time, but there was also, they had Matt Castle, they had Christian Ponder still then. So there was a lot of unknowns of what's going to happen here. And I don't think he got a lot of reps with the ones, most likely. But I just don't remember what the vibe was if people were excited like this.
Yeah, we were excited, but there is a slight difference between being the 32nd overall pick and the 10th pick. I think that is the difference. Yeah. And we've tried every avenue of quarterback now since you and I have been fans. And it's been since Dante that we actually had a home run in drafting a guy somewhat early in the first round. So I think based on the fact that McCarthy won the championship at Michigan and we debated all offseason, will they get Drake May? Will they get Michael Penix? I think the enthusiasm is so through the roof because this is the highest they've ever drafted a quarterback. So I think that might be why it feels a little different.
Well, he definitely also has the swagger and what looks like the leadership skills and those intangible things that certainly Christian did not have. I think he always gave off a vibe that he was a little insecure, that he wasn't necessarily ready for the moment. He would get kind of rattled and Christian Ponder gives us the best chance to win. It's all easily correctable, yada, yada. But it never really seemed like they actually believed it.
Yeah.
Or he even believed it. It never seemed like he even believed it.
And on top of that, we knew the night of that we reached for Ponder. There was no debate about that whatsoever. We had to decide whether or not it was worthwhile to reach. And with McCarthy, for most folks' estimation, there was no reach. All right, the next thing I want to ask you.
That was a crazy draft, right? Didn't Andy Dalton end up being the most successful out of all of those, and he was third round?
Yeah, was he second or? I think he was a second rounder.
Oh, was he? Okay, yeah. I'll look into this. But that was none of the quarterbacks in that draft panned out that were early.
Go figure. All right, I want to ask you this one. This one is really important because if Jordan Addison is suspended, we're going to need all of the weapons we can get for an undetermined amount of games. Jalen Naylor, if you want to knock McCarthy off a pedestal for a little bit, Jalen Naylor has won Vikings training camp through 7, 8 practices. Are you buying into the hype about him? Because there feels like there's a little bit of Irv Smith in this.
Oh my God, Irv Smith. Yeah. Irv Smith also reminds me of that is Cordero Patterson. Mm-hmm. There was always so much hype about him, but then obviously he figured it out elsewhere. But Irv Smith is a blast from the past of always being a camp favorite. I really hope so, because if he isn't, then what the heck are they going to do? Mm-hmm. I feel like, though, didn't this happen to him last year too? That then he got hurt during camp, and so it was a similar story of him really shining and then going down. So I hope for his sake and ours that isn't the case this year, because we are screwed right now.
Yeah, it will be. I tweeted this a couple weeks ago. If Addison is suspended and Naylor's hype fizzles or he's hurt, we will go from 3 months of thinking, gosh, Darnold has never had Jefferson, Addison, Hawkinson, to Darnold having Jefferson, Brandon Powell, and Robert Tonyan. And it's like, well, it's not really what we envisioned. So let's, I guess, hope for the best with Addison. I don't know if that can even be resolved in a good way, and then hope that the Naylor momentum continues.
I can't believe that Brandon Powell is even still a thing. To be honest, like I'm happy for him. I think it was like 2 years ago. I said, "Can we stop trying to make this a thing?" And then he did it, and then and he ended up being very serviceable last year. But it's just kind of crazy that that's potentially your wide receiver 3. But if Addison does end up getting suspended, and I know the rumor is most likely it's going to be 3 games. Is that going to be the first 3, or is that a wait and see?
No, it's usually wait and see. I wouldn't say specifically like, oh, that's going to happen right away in September. But then again, that's not good either, because it could happen in the middle of the season. It could happen at the beginning of next year, which I don't want at all. I'd rather just be done in this murderer's row of the schedule to start the season. So yeah, it's all when the NFL gets to the bottom of it.
I didn't start out the season that way because it ain't looking pretty as it is.
Yeah.
Get it out of the way.
That's what I'm hoping. I've never hoped for a suspension before, but that would be the timeline I'd prefer.
For sure. Yeah.
All right. The next question I had, I actually scripted it a few days ago, and since the Vikings have signed like 4 defensive backs, so I'm going to make this more of a Duke Shelley question. The question originally was, do the Vikings need an extra cornerback after Kyrie Jackson's tragic passing, Kai Blackman's tragic ACL tear, and then Shaquille Griffin's hamstring issue? But I want to know from you, as a pivot, do you believe that Duke Shelley can rekindle the 2022 magic and replicate it in 2024?
I don't see why not, right? I mean, nobody saw it coming in 2022, and I don't think anybody's going to see it coming this time for sure. So I think he definitely can. He's certainly happy to be here, and we're happy to have him. So I think that he can, and I think he knows how important that it is and how much they're probably going to need to rely on him. Where I know you and I have talked about this a lot. It's still very confusing why he didn't get at least like a decent 1-year deal here for 2023. Went to the Raiders, really never played. But I think that they had a little bit more. Well, anybody has more depth than the 2024 Vikings have right now at defensive back. So, I think that he definitely can. And I don't know, though. We kind of, I don't want to say that. It's going to be negative.
No,
as a Dan Shelley Stan account, I shouldn't say it. But it's also going to have a lot to do with how many PIs is he getting away with this year.
Yeah, I hear you.
I mean, that 2022, he had Buffalo game. I didn't say it. Other people are saying it. Not me. People are saying.
At the top of the cornerback ticket, it's Byron Murphy, Shaq Griffin, assuming this hamstring thing goes away, Caleb Evans, Andrew Booth, and then Shelley. So does that give you any bit of confidence? Because they're not signing the big guys, big name guys like Stephen Gilmer. They're getting dudes like Fabian Moreau, who is basically mid, Bobby McCain, who's now a safety. Do you have anxiety about the CBs?
Oh, for sure. I mean, who does it? Who does it? Yeah, there's a lot of anxiety there. Yeah, I mean, when Blackman went down, that was pretty. I mean, all of it's been devastating, but that was for sure, because it was everybody was looking forward to. How is he going to look this year? He definitely was needed, and now, I mean, I think we've all pretty much seen enough of a Caleb, and Booth certainly doesn't even seem excited to be here or excited to play, or even like maybe on this planet sometimes with some of those interviews that he had last week. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons to be concerned. I did see they're moving Ward to cornerback. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Oh, that was kind of, I remember immediately after the draft, based on his build and his responsibilities in college, it felt like, oh, okay, that's going to be their slot guy. And we weren't sure where Byron Murphy was going to fit in. So I think that's a lot more likely than Cam Bynum. That was whispered in the last couple of weeks, but Bynum's an established safety, and Harrison Smith probably got 1 year left. You want to look down at the depth chart next year and see Bynum and Metellus rather than some cornerback type of switch that they have done. I really
Yeah,
hope that between Murphy, Griffin, and Shelley, somebody's got to be able to step up because they've curiously ignored Stephon Gilmore, and then let's see, Dory Jackson's out there, Akello Witherspoon, and they're just getting these guys right now in free agency that A, you've never heard of, and Jacoby Francev, or B, Fabian Moreau, who's just kind of decent.
Yeah, it's almost like they just need bodies to get through camp at this point, which is not a good sign. I mean, I guess all you can really hope for is some people get cut from other teams at the end of camp and they hit the waiver wire and they can pick somebody up because I mean, it's just in reality, they're going to have a couple injuries at that position anyways throughout the season. So what are they going to do? It's pretty dire.
Yeah, that's the spookiest thing, or one of the spookiest things about the cornerback position is we haven't even got to regular injuries in the regular season, and those are going to happen. We're behind now with the tragedy and then Blackman. All right, I got two more for you. Tell me about your away game plans. I am taking my wife and son. We're going to Los Angeles for Thursday night football. What have you locked in your away game itinerary?
I have not. I need to buckle down and make a decision. So I definitely want to go to Green Bay. It's September 29th, so it is early. I prefer to go a little later in the season, but it's the day after my birthday. And who does not want to spend their birthday in Green Bay, Wisconsin? It's not something you have an opportunity to do often. So a Saturday night in Green Bay for my birthday, I think that's definitely how I got to kick off the year. And then I really, really, really want to go to Jacksonville. That's been on my list forever. And the Vikings may never be able to play there again because I think they got approved for a new stadium. And so who knows what will be going on in 8 years. So that's where I really, really want to go. But unfortunately, all of the friends want to go to Nashville the next week. And I'm just like, I mean, I have nothing against Nashville, but you can go to Nashville for tons of reasons any other time. When are we going to Jacksonville?
Have you given any thought to going to week 1 at the Giants or not really?
No, not really. I mean, if somebody wanted to put that itinerary together for me, I would certainly consider it, but it's not really ever been on my list. As I've gotten older and I've kind of been to enough away games, I've realized it's a lot riskier going to the away games on the road because, notoriously the Vikings don't play well, but also people drink all day. And the fan experience can be a little rough actually during the game. And then it just makes it not very fun.
Yeah.
So I think if they're anything and not to, I don't know, maybe this isn't a fair judgment, but if they're anything like the other East Coast teams that I've spent a decent amount of time with, they do get really drunk and they're not super nice.
The good thing about your would-be plans deciding between Jacksonville and Tennessee is if this McCarthy hype train continues, there's a decent chance that you get to see him. And I'm guessing you'd rather see him off and running than Darnold at your away experience.
I love redheads and redheaded quarterbacks.
You can't lose.
I can't. I mean, either way, it's working for me.
Yeah. All right. The last thing I got for you. Now that we've seen a week and a half of camp, we have the regular season 39 days away. Do you have a breakout player that you've been thinking about that the rest of us aren't talking or thinking about?
I know this is so lame. I've been trying to think about this a lot. But the truth is, all I can think about is Duke Shelley. So I really can't. It's too soon for me to think about anyone else. Now that we've got the pads on, it's a little too early in camp. I'll get back to you towards the end with that one.
No, that's fair. I think the best example always comes to mind because we were on ground zero. Remember when yourself, Bryant McKinney, and I talked to KJ Osborne, and he told us right before his breakout that he had it in him, and I think we were both kind of like, yeah, right. And then we were so starved for a WR3 during that era, and then he showed up and was pretty damn good at that task on the 2021 season.
Yeah, I should go back and listen to that again. Since we've been fired from Believe, I've actually went back and watched a bunch of our old stuff, and we had so many good things that I don't know. I feel I wish I would have appreciated it more when it was happening, but I'm going to try to post some of those old things. But it is funny how I remember years when I would be like frantically checking the roster announcements to see if they were keeping a wide receiver 6. And now it's like, we don't even know who 3 is. We might not even know who 2 is when Addison is gone.
Yeah.
So it's
after Naylor and Powell and then Sherfield, it's just a hodgepodge of UDFAs and Tristan Jackson's, we know, from a 2-point conversion against the Falcons. So it doesn't quite have the oomph of years past, or at least we haven't fallen in love yet. Deshaun Jones has looked pretty good at training camp, and he's handsomely paid for a UDFA. The last thing, I didn't have this on your agenda. Do you buy into any type of Adam Thielen reunion?
Do I buy into that it's reality?
That it could make sense.
It makes sense. I would lean towards no, though, because at least just the vibe that I was getting is that he was pretty disgruntled with Kevin O'Connell and his lack of including him in a game plan that he felt was fair for him. Mm-hmm. He obviously was not happy with the amount of targets he was getting, and you could see that frustration in him, which. So of course they could repair that. It's probably not something that's not fixable, but at this point it's kind of like, dude, you didn't want to be, from my perspective, you didn't want to be here. You made it very clear that you didn't want to be here. You thought you were better than being here. And now you want to come back. Like, I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah. Before Naylor's training camp, little saga here, a good saga. I think it makes sense if he was cut by the Panthers, although it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for them to do that. They do have 2 new wide receivers, Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette. So in that vein, if he became expendable, I would almost guarantee that he would come back to the Vikings as whatever WR3, WR4. We just have a long way to go, sure. About 4 weeks before we determine that. All right, Sally, will you come back, let's say next week, next Tuesday or Wednesday before I head off to vacation?
I would love to, and I'll see you Monday though, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's actually, well, I'll probably have to do the show Wednesday then. But yeah, you will see me and my kid on Monday. All right.
Perfect. Or what if we did it in the hotel room, or live from training camp?
Yeah, that would have to be from the phone. I'm not too familiar, but I could probably figure it out. All right, we'll talk to you in a week.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah.
Later.
All right. Good to see you. Bye.
Yes, thank you.